always enjoy conversations like this with someone who's been pioneering along the same path as I have. Our culture doesn't usually think of disruption as a creative force, particularly when you're in the midst of it. It doesn't feel positive.
Things are always moving. They're always shifting around us, just be able to navigate because, sit in that liminality while you learn and grow so that you can see the best path forward.
Welcome to the Business Transition Roadmap. My name is Elizabeth Ledoux, and through my years, I have seen how communities thrive when business succession and transition are done well. Me and my team at the Transition Strategists have been helping business owners develop and implement transition strategies for over 30 years. And on this show, we want to help you by giving you the roadmap to a healthy business transition. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Business Transition Roadmap podcast. I am Elizabeth Ledoux, and I am so happy to be here today with Susan Bradley. Susan Bradley is the founder of Sudden Money Institute and Financial Transitionist Institute. I saw her present at the Purposeful Planning Institute in 2025 at the Rendezvous just this past summer. And her presentation really resonated with me. And I thought it'd be great to bring that forward to our audience. So, Susan, welcome to our podcast today. And can we start by you telling a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you to be doing what you're doing today?
Thank you, Elizabeth. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I always enjoy conversations like this with someone who's been pioneering along the same path as I have. So I look forward to it. Back in 1995, I was a financial planner with a very full practice, practicing in the Palm Beach area in Florida. And I came across a situation that I had no clue what to do about, which was people receiving what they thought was a fairly large settlement for medical complications. And the law firm servicing them nationally was talking to me. They were all women. They were talking to me about it. And I thought that, yes, I would write a financial literacy-based white paper, woman to woman. And I started that, and as I researched what they were thinking and doing and all, it wasn't exactly financial literacy that they needed, but that's what I knew. So I started to put something together. There wasn't anything in my industry for it. I was connected academically and nationally. So I was on an exploration. The company being sued went into bankruptcy. So did many of the women. And that just really wasn't okay. So anyway, that put me on the path to figure out a change management model for the financial planning world. And I saw lots of gaps, learned plenty, ended up writing the book I wanted to read. And my publisher, Wiley, just loved the term sudden money. It's very provocative. But it actually mischaracterized what I was trying to say, but it put me on a map. My colleagues decided what was being written about was important and convinced me to go beyond the book. Eventually, it turned into an institute. And soon enough, a couple years in, we started in 2000, I learned the missing point was transition literacy. I hadn't studied transitions. So I became a student of transitions and read all kinds of different models, but had to apply it to the world that I was working in. And eventually became the Transitionist Institute, which means transitionist is someone who's skilled and trained to manage change, as you are, and your team is. And yet we didn't know that. We didn't grow up to say, I want to be a transitionist when I grow up. But we became them. And then we found out there was a name. And we try and live up to that. The exploration and learning has not ended, not one day. There's so much. It's the human side, as I think you do too. I'm interested in the human experience, not the technical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the human side, has to mesh with that technical side at some point in time. And the technical side is really just the tool side to help the human side thrive, in my opinion, right? And they just have to be harmonious if that can be possible. So yeah, we're in agreement on that.
And, I know that sounds logical to most people. We form Sun Money with the belief that the two sides of money, the technical and the personal, were equally important and equally complex. So there wasn't much on the human side for what we were looking at. Psychology of Money and Dick Thaler's work and all that was out there, but it wasn't helping. So we had to kind of go further. But I don't know if you found this, but I find that the personal side drives the bus during transitions. It is what it determines well-being. It drives decisions, particularly relationship decisions. It drives identity and self-esteem. So it's the human side that I think my work starts on the human side. I would imagine yours does too. And then it's integrated with the technical. It helps if you really know the technical, then you can leave it aside and go to the human and integrate the two, which is where most of the people that we train to be certified financial transitionists are. They have the technical, they go deep dive in the human, then they blend.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, to us, it's a completely people first concept. It's people come first and then the structure comes around the people versus the other way, right? Vice versa usually doesn't work so well. So when your topic at the Purposeful Planning Institute was change disrupts and disruption creates. So I thought I would just ask a little bit about that concept and how you came to that. And just tell our audience a little bit about what you mean.
Yeah, and that was, again, it was an evolution. Our culture doesn't usually think of disruption as a creative force. It clearly is if you get on a high enough balcony, but particularly when you're in the midst of it, it doesn't feel positive. It's something to deal with, dispense, and move on as best you can. What we found over and over as we studied with people like Bill Bridges and others, looking at the different models, is they frequently touched on the idea of something more that comes from it. And you see it in clients when you work closely with the client, and over again. And then there's a whole body of work on liminality, which is the in-between. And all of that work, going back to the late 1890s, is about experiencing change, absorbing it, managing it internally, and then using it to create what comes next. That word create comes up frequently, to shape or to create or reimagine. And it usually happens after the big stuff is done. So it doesn't look as important. You've already rearranged the portfolios and the cash flow and the risk management and all of that. And it seems like people should be, okay, you're done. And that liminality comes in. That's the beauty of seeing it, so you can capture it.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that liminality. So that what is liminality? What does it mean in this context?
Yeah, it's a great word. I believe it has Italian roots, and it means threshold. So think of, you're going from one room, one way of life, owning a business, having your family set up in this context of the business, and you're moving to the next. The move is inevitable. There's no going back. So there's a move, but you're having in between time at the threshold between the two rooms. And
Nice.
in that space that you start to see into this change transition experience. And if you have guides like your group to think through this, you see things you couldn't have seen in the old room. It's a new view. And one of the words to describe liminality, which would be really annoying outside of this context, is ambiguity. Most experts don't like ambiguity, but ambiguity has value. Uncertainty has value. So the idea is to know the possibilities enough that you don't spend your energy trying to get rid of uncertainty and answer all the questions. Many questions are better left unanswered for a while. You live in the question.
Yeah, you live in the question and you discover the answers as you navigate.
Yes.
Right. As you learn, as you grow, as things come to you, as new thinking, new pathways open up, you can see them where you couldn't see them before.
Yes. Yeah. It's beautiful. Another way to think of liminality, if you look it up and start to play around with it, which of course is infinitely easy now with perplexity and all of that. We did a lot of work that you don't have to do quite so much now, but architects use liminality in the context of an airport. An airport is not built to dwell in. You are passing through it. And each airport is built a little differently for the circumstances, the weather patterns, the kind of people, the kind of planes, is it private, is it whatever. And so you think of liminality as a time you're passing through to the next. And it's productive in a whole different way. It's more subjective than objective, but you're testing. In quantum physics, they have the chaos theory when it moves from a system moves from what it was to what it will be. There's that in between time. And it's a time of testing within safe boundaries, testing ideas, but keeping, I love this term, it's called a strange attractor for some reason. When they simulate this in technology, it's what is always going to be true about that system. So in your case, families have values, they have beliefs, they have legacy. So when they go to the next, that's coming with them, but it doesn't necessarily dictate what happens, but it's there. So in quantum physics and chaos theory, part of the safety of testing new is to bring the strange attractor, those hardwired beliefs with you, so you're testing and exploring. So it even goes down to the level of quantum physics. You can go up to architecture. It's just the way nature is.
It is. And human beings, right? Things are, they're always moving. They're always shifting around us. Change happens all the way around us. And we try so hard to have all the answers. And especially, I think, in our culture today, know where we're going, have the answers, be ready. And sometimes one of my favorite words is being able to navigate.
I like that too.
Just be able to navigate because, sit in that liminality while you learn and grow so that you can see the best path forward. It's the way.
I think navigate's a really good word because it's a transit, right? From point A to point B. And when you think about it, I started out thinking that I was working in a financial literacy space because I had sort of grown up in the financial planning world, and I was teaching the kids money camps at the Breakers Hotel and doing women programs way back. And I thought it was financial literacy. And even when I worked with the NFLPA, they hired me to come and do work on, that's the union side, I thought it was financial literacy. And then I had to just get it really in my face that it wasn't. It's transition literacy. Financial literacy is having skills and knowledge to make good decisions along the path of life and behaviors that go with that. Transition literacy is having skills and behavior to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to stay in that navigational path.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't, I think that we're used to, I was just thinking as you were saying that, just the concept of, what keeps people from moving forward in this transition work, because this transition work is so important. And, we work with any kind of family business, but it's the transition of a family asset that's of a high value to the family. That they want that legacy carried on. They want it to be preserved, protected, be stewards of it, and all of those things. And all of those things require so many skills and so much knowledge to be transitioned. However, most of the time, or many times, which I believe is what contributes to the failure rate of transitions, even from first to second generation, let alone second to third, with only really a third of the businesses or assets continuing forward from that first generation. It's only a third. They tend to not want to engage or think about that transition. Like they'll just stay where they are. And when you were just saying that, I'm like, what's keeping them? Is it the liminality that they don't want to go through that? Is it that they don't understand? What do you think?
I think it's real. I've been studying asymmetry of the hemispheres of the brain just to keep me up at night. It's actually very
light reading.
with a fellow named Ian McGilchrist. And his research on the left brain and the right brain is very telling. It's helping me understand my answer to your question.
Nice.
Our industry is our industry of advising people of wealth. Let's make a big industry. It could be tax, it could be law, it could be investments, transitions. It's very left brain. It was created, it's very male-centric. It was created by men for men. Men tend to be, not always, tend to be left brain centered. And left brain is factual, it's logical, it likes prediction, it likes everything that transitions are not. The left part of our brain, male or female, wouldn't really like liminality, wouldn't really like uncertainty. It would work very hard to squash or to minimize uncertainty. But it's in the uncertainty on the right side of the brain that the possibilities get seen, that the broader picture is. And McGilchrist's work is really helping me get out of the old right brain, left brain. Right brain is emotional, left brain is factual. Gallup says every decision is both. And I had all of that. He's helping me understand the awesome power of this right brain if it is developed to synchronize, of course, integrate with the left. It's not either or. So I think there's a transition in this big, broad industry or profession. We're moving from right brain anchored and centric to a more integrated, to include intuition and imagination and reason beyond science. And you see it bubble up a lot. And I think there's the consumers of this profession, the families, the real live individuals, are looking more for a transformation experience than they ever have before. That's Joseph Pine's work, The Transformation Economy. And what is transformation? It's leaving what was and transforming into the next. So we seem to be on the cusp. And
that's so exciting.
I live my life on the cusp, or I'm so far ahead of the wave, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe I should enjoy the cost for a change.
That's what I love about you. And we had such a great conversation. I just love that about you.
Well, I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I think the skill in within families and with those who advise families is something, it's a term we've used for probably 15 years, but it has more meaning now. We call it informed intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So you have information that's important, whether it's technical or important about self, important about what's important and what's true about the client, about all this transition study. And they all come together kind of effortlessly and smoothly if you develop this skill. So you're intuitive, but it's informed intuition. It has process, like you have process. It isn't just, oh, it's a good idea to have a conversation. It's how. And it's the steps to go through that conversation.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I guess I'm trying to kind of tie in some of the work that we do, and even a meeting that I had today with a client, bringing together more than one person. So in this case, bringing together 5 people who are going to begin to manage and run, and whose financial well-being is also, a part of these assets moving forward, a part of the business moving forward. So not only do they have that financial piece tied in there, they also have the relationship tied in there, and they're used to getting together and interacting differently in the family than they are when they get into this transition business. So, or the transitioning of the business. So trying to weave all that into what you were just talking about that informed intuition, and how do you bring that community together, and how do you help each and every one of them do what you just said, right? Have that structure, but also have that intuition that's informed and go together.
Isn't it interesting that it feels like they're sort of opposing ideas of a structure and intuition? I actually think that intuition is structured, but we figured out, I don't know, some years ago, that what we were doing, we've created process for every reoccurring challenge. That advisors, we work in 5 continents. So advisors, not just their culture, they have this thing that comes up, and this is where clients get stuck. So then we get, oh, let's go find out. And we create something. It turns out what we were doing when we were successful is we were having a structured conversation. It turns out that there are components, and it's a purposeful, like we have this, we want to know people's communication preferences, what really makes them feel comfortable when they come into the meeting, when they're in the meeting, when they follow up like that. Everybody is different. So you have the conversation, ask the question, but you have something, and I don't know all your work, but that's why I was peeking around your website. It seems that you have something that you and your families can look at. That visual changes the way the brain works rather than the copy. School teachers taught me that. The neuroscience say yes, but school teachers know it best. So you have something you look at, and it is a purpose. It's the reason we're having this conversation is clear. And what you're looking at gives the client a process to explore and find their words, discover what they want to say, because we all have it. We're not asked frequently, particularly in a context like that. How do they find their words? Then what does it mean? And let the client drive it and decide what's best. And then you make agreements and you move on. You can do that with 40 different kinds of tools, just those steps. And it took me forever to figure out the structured conversation.
Yes.
Pass it on to anybody who would like to shortcut for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I know, Susan, that you are a wealth of knowledge and have so much background and so much experience. And, I love your approach to understanding what people need and Yeah, and just how to help these advisors in the world, right? Not just in the country, but in the world. Make a difference for their clients and help families move together. So yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you. That is our mission, is to help individuals and families make the most of their disruptive times so they make good choices for themselves, their family, and their community. And if you do enough of that, the world gets to be a pretty good place. We don't need everybody.
Absolutely.
We need just maybe 2%. So that's what we go for.
I love it. I love it. Well, our time goes so fast when we're on these. And I'm so grateful to have met you, so grateful to have had the opportunity to now have 2 conversations with you. And thank you so much for being here. I always end our podcast with one question, and sometimes it's on the spot. So, and usually I try to put you on the spot a little bit on this, but I'd love to know if you could leave one thing with our audience today, just one thing for them to take away. What would that be?
Well, the understanding that the transition part of change is part of life. It's the good stuff. And it takes probably a good 5 years. So be patient, find confidence, put your anchors out, and enjoy the navigation with a guide.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Susan, thanks again. And, if anybody wants to reach out to Susan, her contact information and everything will be at the end of this. So all of her information will be available. So thank you again, and appreciate you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I always enjoy being with you, and I love the work you all do.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Transition Roadmap. If you're ready to start shaping your own transition strategy, which I'm really hoping that you are, our team at the Transition Strategists would love to offer you a free discovery strategy session where you can explore what might be good for you and just some new ideas. We've got a new perspective and a new approach with people first. And a lot of what we talk about, nobody has ever really done before. So I want to encourage you to think about that and to go to transitionstrategist.com/discovery to schedule your call if you are even curious. It's free, no pressure. We'd love to talk to you. And by the way, if you're a successor or if you've got one in your business, you'll also want to check out for sure Your Next Gen Friend, A Successor's Guide to Business Transition. It's a podcast that's hosted by my successor, Andrea Carpenter. She's incredible. And this one is specifically designed for rising leaders in family businesses. So thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on the Business Transition Roadmap.